Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Mosaic Podcast. We are sitting in the isolation of COVID-19. We have been now in my area probably about 3 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks, where we are not going out of our houses, where we're only going out to get food, where we're walking the dog. But other than that, we are holed up. And what intrigues me in this moment of time, more than anything else, is how quickly everything in life can change. 4 weeks ago, we would have never imagined, 6 weeks ago, 3 months ago, we would have never imagined that the whole world would come to a standstill. We would have never even dreamed it's possible that something could come along in one moment and change the entire reality of our existence. And the question is, what are we doing in this time where everything is changing? Are we just holding on, waiting for life to come back to what it used to be? Or are we preparing ourselves for a new reality, a new world, a life that will never be what it used to be? Are we learning the lessons of what this is giving us? And I don't mean to downplay all the people that have gotten sick and those people that have passed away. I'm so respectful of that. But there are a lot more of us that will get through this without getting sick or without dying. And the question is, what does that have to say? And what is this period of time saying to us if we could hear it? The reason why this is such an interesting time, and the reason why my guest today, Julie Schechter, is so perfectly suited for this, is because she made a decision that most people probably would not make. She had the courage to shift from a place that made her, that she had invested a lot of time and a lot of resources in to make sure she could go there and have a life that was all set out for her. She graduated from Harvard Law School and went right into a big firm and went right into her cubicle and went right into working with clients and working right into it until she worked herself into a place where she realized she wasn't so happy living the life that she was. And as she forecast her life down the way, she saw more and more and more that she would be living a life of somebody else's creation, not her own. And she had an amazing amount of courage to go against the tide of what society would say to her. Like, how does somebody go to Harvard Law School and then leave law and go out on their own and become sort of a nomad entrepreneur? And she did it. And so we're going to talk about that moment of change, because she founded a company, and she's the CEO of a company called Small Packages, which is a curated care package company that sends love when you cannot be there in person. Small Packages are organized into 16 different life events, from birthday celebrations to breakups to things that happen to people that we don't expect. And she allows people to, in a moment, like in this moment, where you can't get out and shop, where you can't get out and do things, to choose to send love to people in a curated package that you can go onto her website, which is smallpackages.co, okay, C-O, and pick out something for somebody that will be an expression of your love for them. So Julie's work has been featured in international publications, including Every Girl, Elite Daily, and she was recently awarded the Visionary Women Grant by Shark Tank's Barbara Corcoran, which is no small feat. So without further ado, we want to welcome Julie Schechter to the Mosaic Podcast. Julie, thank you for being with us. Thank you for giving us your time. And thank you for coming to address and be with us and talk about your situation. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for that great introduction.
Absolutely. So the whole thing about this show, which I really like, it's emerging more and more and more, is that there are pivotal points in time where we have a choice, where we're at crossroads, and people what I want people to see through the guests that we have, and especially through your life right now, because you are a perfect example of this, is that sometimes the road that has been laid out in front of us, sometimes the road that we thought was always ours to take, suddenly makes a shift. And we come to a fork in that road where we say, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to know, and it's not how I normally start, but I want to just jump in because it's such a pivotal moment. I want to know what allowed you to have the courage to look at your life. You went to Harvard Law School. You graduated Harvard Law School. It's one of the most coveted places a person can go. Your future is determined by going to Harvard Law School. What gave you the courage to walk away from the life that was destined for you, that was handed to you because of the work that you had done?
You know, it's so interesting. I had a wonderful experience in law school. It was a fantastic opportunity to have, great big conversations and meet all these wonderful, intelligent people. But I remember walking into my first day at the firm. Again, great people there, nothing to complain about, but just feeling a sense of misalignment that was so extreme that it felt almost dangerous.
Wow.
And I think, my life up until that point had been, I was a good student. I was,
Right.
an accomplisher, like a person who really always knew the syllabus for life, and so knew what it would take to succeed. And when I got to the firm and I started practicing, I saw that it was very different than law school, where we would sit around and have conversations, and instead was very prescriptive, really not very creative. And I realized that while I could be financially successful there, I was going to be miserable when it came to expressing any kind of personal purpose that I had or making any kind of impact on the world. I just knew I wasn't going to be able to stomach it.
So as someone who's old enough to be your dad, right, and thinking about you as my daughter, and I wouldn't say this because I would not be this type of dad, but I'm trying to put myself into the place of some of the listeners. Did you ever have the thought, well, maybe it was just this law firm that I was a part of, because different law firms operate in different ways, and maybe I could find a more sort of heart-centered law firm. Maybe I could find a different way of going at it, because my trainings here, it seemed like I loved it until I got to the place where I was actually doing it. But did that go through your thought processes?
I feel really lucky, although that sounds like a strange word to use here, in the sense that the misalignment was so dire that I knew it was profession specific.
Wow.
And
Wow.
not just the place that I was. I think sometimes when you're in a situation that feels a little off, you might try to move a couple of other smaller variables first. Yeah. But what I was looking at, what I was unhappy with, was complete lack of creativity, complete lack of being able to sort of mold and contribute in the way that I would want to be able to. And I knew enough and had enough acquaintances and friends in other places to know that it wasn't specific. It was,
wow.
It was deeper.
So I love this, and let me use your brilliant brain to try and, because I think there are a lot of people that are in those situations. I think there are a lot of people that end up walking into lives that are slightly misaligned or maybe greatly misaligned, but they've invested so much time, so much energy, so many dollars into it that they think, I can't leave this. I mean, I will have lost, I will have wasted all of those years doing what I was doing. Did you ever think to take your entrepreneurial spirit and say, I'm going to open up my own law firm, as crazy as that sounds, where I can be creative and where I can do it the way I want to do it, or I can represent the people I want to represent? Or what was it about the moment? Because I get that there was something about the moment that says law is not for me. what was it? If you can identify that place, not only just in law, but in the feeling that you had that allowed you to say, I'm not wasting time. I didn't throw away anything. I'm taking what I have and I'm making a decision based on the study, the work, the intellect, the beauty of what I've been given, to realize, just like I would in any life situation, this situation is not the place for me to be and I have to make a change. What is that? Try and define that if you can.
I'll do my best. I think people know themselves, and when you tap into that sort of intuition that we know that we have, it's incredibly powerful. And I think one thing that I have always known about myself is that I'm a builder. Like, I'm someone who loves to take something small and extrapolate it out. What can we make out of this? How can we help other people? Like, I'm very iterative.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly sitting in my first sort of all staff meeting at the firm and feeling this overwhelming, like, physical sense of shrinkage. Wow. Like, what's the absolute least that I can do to skate by here so that I can iterate in some other area, so that I can carve out time to do something real.
Wow.
And that physical feeling, I think, I used to be a ballet dancer, and so I feel very in tune with, what my body tries to tell me. And I think that feeling of shrinkage was just so overwhelming and so powerful.
And so for people, like, I want people to really hear this, because what happened for Julie is Julie walked into this situation, walked into this life with a sense of knowing something about herself, sense of knowing self. And when you know yourself, like Julie did in this situation, you can feel when you walk into an environment that it just feels icky. It feels that you're trapped in something. It feels too small for what you want to be in. And you have really no other chance but to run out the back door, the front door, the side door, the window, whatever you're going to do to get out, right? I want you to get to the feeling of how well, as you're listening to this now today, how well do you know yourself? How often do you listen to those inclinations that you have, to those guttural feelings that say, these are too small. Something's not right here. And how long and how much are you too scared to go into that place to allow yourself the fear, the freedom, the excitement, the absolute like, wow, whoa, what do I do now? Right? that leaves you with. So what about, once you made that decision, what scared you the most about that?
So one thing that was incredibly helpful to me in making this change, like all of the other changes I've made in my life, is I have a very small Greek chorus in my life of people that I know love me and have no agenda for me, which I think are two parallels that are crucial.
Yeah.
And so I think when you identify those people in your life, when you know yourself really well, and you've identified those people in your life that you know can give you really authentic guidance, then there's not that much to be scared of.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think we can always land on our feet. We can always pivot. And as you do that more and more, and I've done many pivots in my life so far, yeah, it becomes this muscle of resilience that allows each one to be a little easier, a little bit more fluid. So I can say at that moment, what was I scared of? Well, I was scared of the, social lack of approbation for other, people who, oh, why would you want to leave the law firm? Like, what are you doing? This is so crazy. How was I going to support myself? But as you sort of honed in on that, surety and on the, guidance of the people who walk alongside you and know what's also best for you, those things sort of start to fall away.
So just like Julie's company, which is smallpackages.co, there's some small packages that she's delivering in this podcast already that I want to make sure you hear, because she said something that was so common for her and so um, um, it followed so naturally for her. And that was that she had people that loved her and had no agenda for her. But often that's not the case. Often the people that love us do have an agenda for us. Often the people that have an agenda for us don't really love us. So as you are curating this package of this little small package, what advice would you give to somebody who feels loved but not agendaless? What advice would you give to someone who is agendaless but isn't loved? What would you say to them, and how important that is for another person to be able to offer a love that is total and is agendaless? How would you recommend somebody do that?
I think it's something that we learn to practice ourselves as well. Like, I think often we get love and agenda very confused.
Yes.
Like, even when you think about your own family, do you have an agenda for each of the different family members? Oh, of course not. I would never do that. But a little further examination often shows that we really do. We want them to show up for us in certain ways. We want them to be dependable to us in certain ways. And so I find often, a couple of those people for me were in my family, but I think it's almost like cultivating your personal board of directors over time. A slightly corporate kind of euphemism for it, but it doesn't even have to be someone to whom you're particularly close relationship wise. It could be someone that you know in a professional capacity whose advice you respect. But I think it's crucial to be able to identify how those two things can get tangled up.
Yes, I know in a lot of the work that I do with people love me because I'm straight to the point. And my wife will always say to me, I can't believe you get away with saying stuff like that to people, because you don't even know them that much, and but I see something and I share with them what I see. It doesn't mean they have to take it or not. But we need people in our lives that will actually will perspectivize us, will give us different perspectives, that will allow us to see, hey, what would happen if we saw it like this? Or what would happen if we looked at it quite a little bit of a different way? So I don't even know if your parents are still alive or not alive, but what did your parents say to you when you told them you were leaving the law practice and going to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I think I was unusually lucky in the sense that my parents' disbelief and confusion actually happened when I went to law school.
Okay.
They never viewed that as the path for me. But even though they were completely supportive of my decision to leave, they did have all the very normal concerns about, well, you took out a lot of loans to do this. What is your financial future going to look like? We are delighted that you have sort of tapped into something that's going to make you feel much more true to yourself. But, a girl's got to eat. How are we going to make it?
Totally. And what did they do? What did your mom and dad do?
My dad is a documentary filmmaker.
Wow.
And my mom is a child psychologist.
Wow. So under separate cover, I want to talk to you about your dad, because I want to do a documentary. So we didn't even discover that before. And so growing up with a documentary filmmaker, what did that show you about life?
So much. I think one of the things, well, I don't know where to start. So it was wonderful, first of all, to have a parent who was self-employed.
Yeah.
Because that felt normal to me from a very early age. The idea that, the highest authority was dad. Dad doesn't have a boss, dad's his own boss, right? Like the idea that you can be completely of your own making and make your way in the world on your own merit was something that wasn't a concept I had to learn. It was intrinsic, which was wonderful. But the other thing that was so great was, he writes and directs and edits all of his own movies. So his life is very project based. And so from when I was very small until now, he's still working, our sort of family life tracked these big arcs where he would, be deeply in learning research mode and then in creative iterative mode and then honing something back down to present it to the public and then marketing mode. And then it would start all over again. So I became very used to that rhythm, which is really the rhythm of being an entrepreneur and someone who's comfortable making a lot of pivots in life, because you kind of get to go with all of those different flows and exercise different parts of your own competencies along the way.
Yeah. One of the things I love about what you're saying is, I wrote a book called The Mosaic, and it's really not about mosaic pieces coming together, but it is in the story, it's sort of like a mosaic, a human mosaic of all of what happens when we come together. But I love the image of it, and I love the idea of it, that when we live our life as a mosaic, we have all these little pieces that sometimes get left behind. But they're different pieces. They're different shapes, different sizes, different colors, different textures, but they make up the mosaic of our life. And all too often we live not a multicolored mosaic, we live a unicolored mosaic where we decide to do something and feel like we're trapped in doing that the rest of our life. You've had many different colors. You talked about being a dancer and going from dance. Talk to me about those pivot moments. Talk to me about those places where something just happens and it's time to change.
So I've had several so far. I was a dancer my entire life, grew up as a ballerina. I was a dance major in college, and then pivoted to go to law school. Decided I didn't want to live in a life in which I was constantly auditioning for other people, that I had no security, that my body could fail me at any time. Well, this is a much more secure choice. I'll go to law school. Went to law school, was at the firm for several years, didn't want my soul to die, made the pivot. And that was when I went into entrepreneurship. Small Packages is actually my second company. I ran a ballet fitness company called Fit Ballet for 3 years in New York before I started Small Packages, which was a wonderful experience as well. So I sort of feel like I've had, 3 or 4 big ones so far. And I think the common thread in each of those pivots has been that a different part of my expression really was ready to come out. I needed security, and then I needed creative expression, and then I needed more authenticity. And at each of those inflection points, I kind of had to be able to step back and say, this is a very loud voice saying that this is time to make this change. Let's do it. Let's see what happens.
Were there situations that came to you when that loud voice happened and you just couldn't listen? You just said, no, this is too scary. I can't listen to it.
I think actually it was this very last time that I pushed off the change much longer. I wasn't particularly afraid in any of the earlier iterations. I think there's something about getting a little older and starting to compare yourself to your age cohort. And I'm 34. And so, at this point, most of my peers have been in one career for quite a long time. They're achieving a lot of competency, and it's sort of that virtuous feedback cycle where they're becoming experts. And I, as an entrepreneur in my second startup, am still in the phase of life where I'm just diving off the cliff again and again. Let me teach myself this. Let me figure this out. And that, I think, can be a hard thing to hold sometimes. So I pushed off this last business pivot for a bit for that reason.
I love your honesty in this. And so when you get to that place where that feeling happens, what's the feeling that accompanies that? When you say, gosh, all of my friends are established, all of my friends have been doing something, they're starting to get prestige, they're starting to get this, and I am what?
Mm.
Because I think when people get a sense of knowing that somebody else is making those decisions with those I am, because you don't have to change your profession for people to feel those I am moments. You can
Yeah.
be in the law office and say, oh, everybody else is getting bigger cases. Or you can be in the dance studio and say everybody else has bigger, things like that, right? Whatever it is, those situations come up. It's not what I'm wondering is it the moment of change? Is it that pivot point that brings those situations up, or is it something inside of us that those pivot points just put a little pressure on so we see it a little bit clearer?
Yeah. I think the emotion that comes up initially when you're in that space of comparison is, I am behind, you know? But upon a little more further reflection, the truth is more, I am not where I am supposed to be.
Hmm.
And therefore, another change is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, having gone through it several times, I try, and usually succeed, to feel just delighted for the other people who are moving forward in their paths, and a lot of gratitude for the fact that I know there's a misalignment.
Yeah.
Because if you're worried about wasting time, the worst thing to do is to waste time in the place where you're not supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. If I can share a story with you, I remember after my parents passed away, I moved in with my aunt and uncle, and they were a household name. My parents, we were brought up in a lower middle class family. We were born in Philadelphia. We moved across the country to the middle of the country to people that I didn't really know very well, but they certainly had the wherewithal to take care of us and show us a life that we had never even imagined possible. And in coordination with that, suddenly my friendships changed. The people that I was associating with changed. Suddenly I was with some of the elite families in the country, and I was sitting with my friends who were my friends and their parents. And as my friends got to be older and older, my friends became the billionaire class as well. And I remember one of my closest friends sort of always, whenever we would get together, he would sort of make fun of me a little bit. He would always say, you are so brilliant. When are you going to stop looking for yourself and start just doing what you could do? I mean, the world out there needs you. And look at us all. We have the power, we have the prestige, we have the money to initiate a lot of things in the world. When are you going to grow up and sort of just get out of this finding yourself model and go into and go in and actually make a contribution that's going to change the world? And over time, not because of the things that we said to each other, because we loved each other, our ways parted, and we lost track of each other for about 20 or 30 years. One night I was staying at the Mandarin Oriental in New York on Columbus Circle. And I came up the elevator and walked into the lobby. The lobby's on the 35th floor. And I came up, and I was walking into the lobby, and passing me was my close friend. And I looked at him and I said his name, and he didn't recognize me, and I recognized him, and I said, hold it, you don't recognize me, do you? I said, this is Danny. He said, Danny, get out of here. He said, where are you going? I'm going out to a club right now. You want to come join me? I said, no, I think I'm going to pass, but I would like to spend time with you. He said, well, let me go up to the room. I got a bottle of scotch. I got 2 good cigars. Why don't we sit in the lobby here and just have a conversation and catch up? I said, catch up on 30 years, right? He said, absolutely. It wasn't long into our conversation that he said to me, I really want to tell you how sorry I am. I sort of made fun of you. And I sort of just put you down at my expense, at your expense, so that I could feel more. Because secretly, I envied what you were doing. Secretly, I knew that I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. Right now, I'm on my 7th wife. My kids don't speak to me. Every city that I go to, I sleep with another woman that I hire to sleep with me. I have no joy in my life. I have all the money you could ever imagine, all the power I could ever imagine, but I don't have 1 minute of solitude. And when I look into your eyes right now, I see we're staying in the same hotel. We're drinking the same scotch. We're smoking the same cigar, but you're happy. What I wouldn't give for that happiness. And I said to him, you know, it's never too late. You can have that now. You can make decisions right here in this moment. And he said, I'll call you when I get back home. I'll call you when I get back home. He never called. And I didn't want to impose upon him. But those pivot points become so much harder to take the more entrenched we get. Even though we're not happy, we don't know what the other perspective brings. So to someone who is sitting here right now listening and is maybe 34 or 35 or maybe 60 or maybe 50 and says, I wonder if it's time for me to make this pivot, what would you say to them?
I think I would say start small and see how much joy that brings you. I think like I was saying before, it truly, truly is a muscle. This resilience, this change, this ability to see that you're not stuck, that nothing that happened before really has anything to say about what is going to happen to you for the rest of your life. And that you have that kind of agency as a birthright. You know, you don't have to have pivoted 4 or 5 times over the course of your career to be able to have the ability to do so at 60, at 90. I think that's a core human need, is the ability to see ourselves grow, to learn, to progress over time. And even if you are having responsibilities that prevent you from making some sort of jump off a cliff change at this particular month or moment in your life, try something else.
Yeah.
Try some other small change and see what joy it brings you.
What I like about what you're saying is it's particularly relevant to this moment, because this coronavirus has instilled upon us an opportunity to make a change, because what we know will no longer be what is. What we have will no longer be what's important to us. Maybe a lot of us will go back to trying to recreate exactly the life we had before we had this happen, but maybe many of us won't. So it's almost as if the environment, the earth, the universe itself is giving us an opportunity to take a look at the life we're living and invite us into a pivot moment. Thank you for all your honesty and your straightforwardness in this. I think it's a beautiful example to give to people. Because we've been talking about pivots, let's pivot a little bit and talk about small packages.
Sure.
So Harvard trained, several years with a firm. How did small packages come about?
It actually was an outgrowth of the first company that I founded. So that company, while it was based in ballet and in fitness, was really more centered on themes of connection and empowerment and of strength. But after spending 3 years doing that in the context of live fitness classes, I knew that I wanted to pivot to build something that could reach more people. I loved those underlying themes, but it didn't have to particularly take the shape that it was then, and that shape wasn't working. So I kind of went back to the drawing board and decided that I wanted to make something that I could put out into the world that would serve those same themes and connect people, let them show up for each other, but that was much more accessible. So that was the thought process.
So for those of you who are still a little unclear about what she's talking about, I want you to go to smallpackages.co. I want you to see what she actually offers. But I want you to take a minute now, because we have the horse's mouth, right out of the horse's mouth. So I want you to say how that works for you, how this desire to create connection, how this desire to have a sense of intimacy, how this desire to give to people that you can't, that you're not close, you're close to, but not proximately close to. How that came about into this company that you created.
Absolutely. So what I have been seeing is that, we are really suffering from a loneliness epidemic in this country. And millennials, the generation to which I belong as an elder millennial, we actually have the highest rates of loneliness. So something like over 35% of us report feeling extreme isolation. And when I looked at the data, the reason for that seemed to be we're among the first generations to move away from our communities of origin for work, for partners, for school, and to stay fully away, to raise young families without sort of the, group that we need in order to do that. So much isolation. So the idea with small packages is if there is an occasion that you don't have the time or the money to show up in person for, your best friend is going through a breakup or had a new baby, bought a new house, you come to the site and you choose the box that's already tailored for that occasion. So you're able to show up in a meaningful way, but still get on with the rest of your life, because of course, even though we're isolated, we're all incredibly, incredibly busy.
Right. So for those people who want to do this, I'm sure one of the questions you get asked is, are those packages, can you interchange items? Can you pick and choose, or do you go with the packages that are there? And if you go with the packages that are there, what's the philosophy around that? Because I have a sense that there's a philosophy around why those packages are there.
Indeed. So they are all pre-curated, meaning you can select the drop-down menu for each one and see exactly what's going to go in each one. They're all preset. And the reason that we did that is they're all curated to touch each of the senses, to make it as close as possible as you showing up in person yourself. Something to eat, something that's sort of indulgent, something to hold, something to read that might be really inspiring. And each of the boxes comes with a card with a handwritten note in it. So the idea is that not only are you showing up in this way with these things that might make your friend's life easier or more celebratory, but the actual personal connection of the words that you would say to them if you were able to show up are arriving at the same time.
Fabulous. And I think one of the big advantages of it, from the conversations that we've had before, is how effortless it is even to show your love and affection for someone, and how quick it can happen. Because really all that happens is you go there, you say, oh my God, my girlfriend just had a breakup, I want to pick the breakup box. The whole thing takes about 5 minutes to do. And you've expressed something that'll be meaningful to a friend of yours that you haven't had, that would have taken you a lot more time to curate on your own.
Exactly. And it also kind of goes to the idea that, we're all part of these webs, right? It's not that you have one friend who's going through a life event. You're part of this interconnected community. And no matter what life stage you're in, everybody's going to be going through something different. You want to show up for all of these different people. So given what we're responsible for in modern life, whether or not we're socially isolated at home, it's just a lot to be able to do that when you don't live down the street from someone in the way that we used to, in the way that we can do that.
So what's your biggest hardship in doing all this? What's the thing that saddens you the most about the beauty of what you're doing?
Well, the thing that saddens me the most about it is the fact that, as we were talking about before, my favorite slash least favorite box is this one we have that we call "This is the worst," and it's our box for, a bad diagnosis, or just something terrible that happens, and it's actually our best seller.
Wow.
And that makes me so sad because, of course, I hate for people to be going through pain, but so much of the customer feedback that we've gotten is when someone is going through a trauma, you never know what to say or
Yeah.
what to do, but you just want to show up. And in this age where we cannot show up with a casserole or, pick your frozen food item of choice or a hug or anything, being able to just send something easily that says, I mean, this is literally what the card says: "This is the worst. You're amazing. I'm here." That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Love that. Um, it also seems to not surprise me, even though I'm sad to hear it doesn't surprise me, that that particular package is the most popular, because even in the times we're going through now, it seems like it takes a certain tragedy to bring us together. It takes a certain, we don't so often celebrate the joys in our life. I mean, having a baby, we celebrate; getting married, we celebrate. But just the idea of sending something just for the sheer joy of saying to you, "I want to tell you how much I love you as my friend."
Yeah.
We often don't take those moments. We wait for the tragic moments to say, "I'm here for you." What sort of reflection do you have on that? On what can you do with your company to invite people? Because one of the fabulous things about your company is that it invites people to celebrate those almost insignificantly, but so significant moments, right? And make the insignificant more significant. What do you do to foster any of that? What do you do to grow any of that? Or do you just let that be, we're here for people to use it the way they want to use it?
Well, we definitely have selected the care packages that we curate such that people can use them how they will. But part of the intention, and I'm so glad that you bring up like this sort of insignificant happy things as
Yeah.
well, is that's something we're trying to do on purpose by building the company, period, right? Like we have boxes for, marking promotions, a box that just says, "I miss you." And there's something about someone else having done the, intellectual and emotional work of like putting something like that together and then putting it in front of someone that then, our customers say, "Yeah, I wouldn't have thought to do this, but now that it's right in front of me, it's a message I absolutely want to send. It's something that I would absolutely love to follow through on." So just creating it and putting it out in the world, I think, has triggered that thought for a lot of people.
What's happened in you as a result of doing this that has surprised you?
Oh, well, I think just being an entrepreneur, and like I said, this is, my second go round, and I learned a lot the first time, has really shown me that the reason I do this is service. I I think of myself as a creative person, and like I said before, I love to build and I love to iterate, but the money that comes in, like the sort of press we get, that kind of thing, obviously is wonderful from, an ego and building perspective. But I am elated every single time we get a message from a customer that says, "I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. You filled a need that I have. I was able to show up for someone." I got a call from my friend as she was opening her package, and she was crying on the phone because she felt so seen and so loved. And I was able to accomplish that while running around after my kids. It's those moments of knowing that you're not just building something for yourself as an ego project, but actually filling a need, that have been just so incredible.
What year is the company in? How long has it been going?
We launched in December of 2018. So
Oh,
coming
so,
up on a year and a half, we are still quite young.
okay. And have there been any requests for you to either franchise this or open it up in other countries or open it up in other regions?
We just ship domestically right now, and we have gotten a lot of requests for overseas shipping because, of course, those are the people you really can't see.
Yeah.
As a super small business, we haven't figured out a way to make the economics of that work yet, but I am always trying.
Yeah. It's interesting because right after we met, I work with a woman who started something up in Australia, and she supplies services to people who need services. So if you need your house cleaned, there's a person there. And I told her about you, and I said, you know, she said, "Oh, I love that idea. I just absolutely love it, but it's too financially. The shipping makes it prohibitive. But but it might be a neat idea down the line for you to find resources that you could team up with
Yeah.
in Europe, in Australia, in the Far East, in the Middle East, where you could create this small package concept that maybe it's a franchise or something like that, which would be really allow people all around the world to give to people all around the world.
I love that. If anyone listening has any connections or ideas, please email me.
And I think it's a very sellable concept. And so that brilliant law mind may come into, play here.
Thank
Um,
you.
when you look at the world that you see outside, is this the world you always dreamed you'd hand over to, if you have children, your children and your children's children, or to future generations?
Hmm. I don't have children yet, but I think the answer, regardless, would have to be absolutely not. I mean, we were in my family raised not in any religious sense of connection, but just from kind of a humanist perspective um, to take responsibility for other people, to try to make a contribution, to feel connection, to build community. And I feel that slipping away from us very, very intensely. That's one of the reasons I started this business. But I will say the one silver lining of this entire disaster that we're collectively living through in
Yeah.
real time is, the Mr. Rogers quote of, look for the helpers. I'm blown away by how many helpers there are,
Yeah.
by how many people, um, by how brave people are.
Yeah.
Not just the healthcare workers on the front lines and the people showing up to work every day for minimum wage in a grocery store. And, we can have a whole economic conversation another time, but just the folks who really feel called upon in a moment of real emergency to contribute.
Yeah. You have a brilliant mind, and using that brilliant mind to look at the world we live in, where people are not as connected. What would be one thing? I know you started your company to bring people connection, short of going to smallpackages.co and sending somebody one of your packages. What would be something you would say that people could do today after listening to this that would make the world lean into a world that would be more like the one we want to leave to future generations?
Call somebody you love. Truly, I think the concept of charity begins at home is one that we really need to learn a little bit more intensely and need to practice every day. I think I at least grew up thinking that I was going to make grand strides, that I was going to do big things, and that was the measure of a life well lived, like whether you earned your place in some encyclopedia somewhere. And I think I've made a complete 180. I think a beautiful, worthy life is one in which you have connection to the people around you, that you build a community, even if it's the 3 people in your family, that's a safe, harmonious ecosystem, that you reach out, that you try to build other people up. I don't think there's any step toward connection that's too small to be worthy.
Fabulous. Julie, I know we mentioned your website a lot, but why don't you let people know if they are intrigued about what you're doing, how they can get in touch with you, if there are other ways, if there's social media handles, and we'll put those in the show notes. I think you've either sent them to me or we'll send them to me, what those social media handles are. But how can people get in touch with you, and are you
Sure.
still shipping during COVID-19?
We are still shipping. We are still live. Our website is smallpackages.co, and the best social media to find us on is Instagram, and our handle is small_packages_co.
Great. And we'll put that into the show notes. If I don't have it, you'll email me that as well. Thank you so much for the gift of your time. Thank you for the wisdom of not only your head, but your heart. And if I can take just a moment and summarize what I get from this that I would really like to share with our listeners. What I love about life, what I love about a mosaic life, is that sometimes we feel like a piece surrounded by other pieces, and sometimes we feel trapped by that surrounding. That can be the work that we've chosen, or the family that we have, or the career, or the school that we have to pay back, or the people that we have to impress. But sometimes those pieces that surround us are actually tunnels or bridges to a whole nother world that exists, that they're connected to on the other side of that. And when we have a moment to actually take the things that surround us and perceive them not as walls, but as opportunities, we realize we're one piece away from a completely different reality. That where we are right now in this moment is really just where we are right now in this moment. And when you see somebody like Julie, who's had the courage to really bring that to life, to say that I am not confined by the decisions that I made that seemed great and perfect and right and good, but that no longer fit me anymore. And people who have the courage to risk everything, student loans and reputation and all the things that she's risked, to do what is the most important thing that anybody could ever imagine, which is to follow your own heart, to find that place in you where there's happiness and there's peace. And when you do that, you have a moment like I had with my friend passing in the elevator at the Mandarin Oriental, where he says, all of this that I've done, I wish I could redo, but he didn't have the courage to redo it because he didn't know what he would lose and know what he would gain. If this podcast can do anything for you, and this one podcast in particular, allow it to allow you to question some of those places that you think are firm decisions. And ask yourself, is this bringing me the happiness, or am I trading for a security that will only make me more and more confined in a place that I'm not happy in? And do I have the courage at this moment, right now, to take a look at my life and make a pivot? I don't even know where I would pivot to. But do you have the courage to make that pivot? I've done it many times in my life. Julie's done it many times in her life. Have you done it in your life at all? And do you need to do it? Maybe you're completely happy where you are. I model and love those people that are completely happy where they are. I wish I was one of those people, but I've never been. And so for those of you who are those people, there's no reason to change. You don't have to. If you're completely happy doing the life that you're doing, God bless you. Continue to do it more. But if there's something inside you that says, I'm not happy doing this, and doing it more is only going to make me more and more unhappy, find the courage to take small change, to find a small change, like Julie said. Recreate your package in a small package that might be able to change. And if any of you are wanting to send love and care to somebody in this period of time where we're isolated and alone, and there could be no greater thing than receiving a care package from someone who loves you, go to smallpackages.co and take advantage of the services that Julie offers. And let us hear from you. Let us hear how you like it. If you like this podcast, please review it on Apple Podcasts. Please get in touch with Julie through smallpackages.co. And if there's anything that I can do for you, you know my door is always open. I'm here for you. Until next time, we will do everything to get through what we're going through because we are doing this together. I send you all the love of my heart, and I thank you for spending your time with us today. Julie, again, thank you.
Thank you.